So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question. You were asked, excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders. You wouldn't even answer that question. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief. Businessman there, drink my wine. Plowman, dig my earth. None will level on the mine. Nobody of it is worth. Hey. No reason to get excited. The baby kind is full. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been through that, and this is not our fate. So let us start talking falsely now. The hour's getting late. Hey!
Wow. Good job, High Fidelity. My name is Heidi Kuda. I'm with Hi-Fi and Jim. This is Rad Pod and Not So Chill. This used to be a lot of fun. We used to have a lot of laughs, you know. This was sort of our live stream at the virtual bar talking about our most recent episode and whatever was the news in the before times. And now it's the after times. And that's pretty grim stuff, High Fidelity, but well done. And I kind of just want to jump right into the theme that Hi-Fi put together for tonight. Yes, High Fidelity. There goes the big finger. What's up?
The more that our country is falling apart, and obviously as well as the world, the more I'm drawn to the music of the Vietnam War. And, you know, the last time this country was at each other's throats, and it seems to fit.
I was about to say, Hi-Fi, that music hit me right in the feels, brother. I was like, oh yes. So this is how they fucking felt. When I heard that song for the first time again, right? Like, oh my God, now I get it. because you're exactly right. That's the last time that there was anything close, when our politicians were getting picked off left and right, when our cities were burning, when National Guard were getting called into cities. But in many ways that was nothing. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it was super, super important of protest music, and the art that was born out of that. Really, people fight against oppression and for a war they didn't believe in. And we've just been sedated somehow. We haven't had that kind of ferocious artistic pushback that we really need. We don't have the music that we really need. It's been just a lot of it. It's kind of been Spotified, I guess. Yes, hi-fi.
There is one country music star who has come out with a protest song talking about the fading of the red, white, and blue. And goddamn, if that kid didn't just make himself a legend. Anyway.
Also, we can never forget Dolly Parton.
You can't. What's the name, Hi-Fi? What is the name?
Hi-Fi got.
I can't remember. I'm high.
Oh, come on. Well, but you better look it up, because you just left the entire audience like, what the fuck, man? So go look it up and then come back and tell us. Go ahead, Heidi.
So what I wanted to talk, there is another Russian spy that just picked off, and I think it was Poland, and I think he'd been sharing national security secrets for roughly 5 years. And so I bring this up because we now have the reform leader in UK who was working for the Russians. We have his allegiance to Nigel Farage. We have children's spies picked up on Telegram and doing spycraft for the Russian teenagers in the Netherlands. Now we have this Polish, civil servant who was delivering secrets. And I bring it up because, again, this is happening in Europe. We've already documented how many people currently occupying our White House are basically compromised or, full-on Russian agents. And so I believe that this made-up boogeyman of Antifa, as Jim liked to call it in the previous times, that the bigger danger, of course, are the Russian assets and criminals in and around our White House. I think that's really the big problem, rather than this make-believe. But I want Jim to speak on that with some historical context, because this is not new, and Hi-Fi's got his hands.
Hi-Fi, you're killing me with the fucking finger, bro. Just
hold on. Two things. One, the country singer's name is Zach Bryan. Thanks, chat. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. And number two is, you skipped one, Heidi. Speaking of Russian assets, speaking of spies, turns out that Viktor Orban, sorry, almost said Horban. Anyway, Viktor Orban had spies trying to hire people from the European Commission.
Yeah. So
I don't know, all these little stories about a spy here, a spy there, just seems ridiculous to me at this point, honestly. Fucking Melania just got up and did a press conference where this chick said, this fucking Epstein prostitute, got up there and said that she was talking to Putin about Ukrainian kids and had done a deal with Putin in order to, somehow broker the brainwashed, terrorized children who've been kidnapped from their parents. I'm sorry, we don't need to look for spies and shit anymore. They're right here in front of us. We have Anna Paulina Luna saying, I'm going to have a meeting with Kirill Dmitriev. Who's Kirill Dmitriev, you may ask? The sovereign wealth fund manager and personal friend and confidant of Vladimir fucking Putin, who met with Eric Prince in the Seychelles and all of that shit. But also, by the way, and I'm sorry I'm heated today, but fuck it, is literally posting Q drops. He's doing deltas of Q drops. If you know what that means, he's going, ooh, 5 years ago, this Q drop came out and it matches this completely insane shit that this regime is doing. Look, Antifa is made up. I don't know how many times I have to tell anybody this. Stop saying it's an ideology. Stop saying it's this. It's not any of that. It's a fucking hoax. There are two significant examples of Antifa in history before 2017. One was a small group in Portland, which is why they're attacking Portland, that was called Rose City Antifa. They were founded in order to fight Nazis. There was going to be a festival or something. And there's still some of them, and they're anti-fascist, but it's a small group. It's not an organization. There was nothing else in America.
Stop for 1 second. We are anti-fascist, so I just want to make that clear. We are. That's where it gets confused.
Okay. In 1932, the Communist Party of Weimar Germany had a group called Antifaschist Action, and they were nicknamed literally Antifa. And Joseph Goebbels did a speech in 1932, said, "The storm is coming," was the name of this speech. And he was trying to incite violence with Antifa in that speech in 1932. Look it up. And what happened? There was the Reichstag fire. There was Horst Wessel, who Heidi has been reporting on extremely well. It's all there. Antifa is a boogeyman. It was sort of real back then. There were communists. There were people who were really, really upset that the fascists were taking over Germany. But now you have literally Mike Johnson on Fox fucking News saying Antifa is going to be protesting at No Kings. Yeah. You had Roger Marshall saying that George Soros was paying for violent protesters, and that's why they needed the National Guard, because we hope it's going to be peaceful, but probably not. This is the same exact rhetorical form, content, everything. The only thing that they have changed slightly is the culture. They've Americanized it. We have got to stop pussyfooting around all of this shit. They are using the same conspiracy theory that the Nazis used in order to go for, as Heidi very correctly pointed out, anti-fascists. Antifa itself is a brand name that's been used a couple of times. Once again, in 2017, a very specific troll named Microchip decided, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I did a protest, a petition to the White House to fight against Antifa? And it got a bunch of signatures because Breitbart and these other right-wing conspiracy theorists posted about it. And here we are 8 years later, and Stephen Miller, and I wrote a very long, detailed article about this, and I'll shut up in a second, put on, speaking of Antifa LARP, and thank you for that title, Hi-Fi, it's brilliant because it's absolutely what's going on here, put Donald Trump in a room with a dozen of the most pathetic, D-list, neo-Nazi fascist LARPers on planet Earth. The most senior, most credible reporter in the room was Jack fucking Posobiec. He was like the veteran in the room who'd been fighting Antifa for years and years now. He literally made it up with those trolls. Literally made it up. They came up with accounts on Twitter accounts. They were like, we're Antifa. And then they would say extremely horrible shit. And then they would say, see, Antifa. That's how this works. And so Stephen Miller, hold on, took Donald Trump, stuck him in a room with these idiots, a dozen of them, the worst, most pathetic LARPers on earth. And they all told this story about how Soros and the Democratic Socialists and all of these people are all conspiring together. And Donald Trump just sat there and lapped it up like a big old dummy. And that is a reason why Donald Trump thinks that the people in frog costumes in Portland are some kind of anti-fascist criminal terrorist network who are coming after him. It is all a pretend story for one purpose. And I'll end here. The purpose is to make the Democratic Party illegal before the midterms.
Right.
That is where this goes. Every time they have set up, and last word, the legal framework. It is called NSPM-7. If you have not read it, I implore you, read it. It is terrifying. It says that if you don't agree with Charlie Kirk, you are under suspicion of being a terrorist. And anytime that you are found or looked up, they can take that association. If they look on your Twitter and see, oh, you don't like fascism? Well, shit, now we can put the Joint Terrorism Task Force on you. That's literally what this document says. Anybody who doesn't agree with the traditional values of Charlie Kirk is under suspicion. So I apologize. It's been a week because we'll talk about the Flint thing, but it's been a week and I'm a little heated and then Hi-Fi got me
That's all right.
all ramped up with the Jimi Hendrix. So anyway, yeah.
So no, let's stay on this because I keep thinking when I see this reality TV fascism, and I did a thing about how many of the autocratic leaders actually had either a journalism background or a media background, and there's a whole bunch of them. And I was thinking about the Soviet show trials. You know, they had these really just staged events so they could go after their political enemies. And that felt like the kind of a preamble to those types of show trials, that event that you were just talking about, Jim. So even though it is all so awful and they bring in the most awful people, unfortunately, because of the power of this mass communication, it becomes kind of effective. And so I looked at that, I kind of zoomed out and I'm like, well, they've already groomed people in America against immigrants and having their neighbors picked up, and that's been normalized. And so now what they're doing with this boogeyman that they've created is just making it okay to then pick up everybody else. So you're already used to this war
at least the
on
political opposition, yeah.
So yes, so now it's like with this boogeyman they create, it's just like that means that you can then go after everybody else. So it's unfortunately evil genius in a way. It's very effective. And I don't know how we crack it other than to continue to expose it. And again, to understand the mind war is to understand that a word like that is created to make those who oppose a fascist criminal regime filled with Russian agents and compromised people and criminals who are trying to stay out of prison. If you oppose that, they have now made you the enemy by making up this narrative. And we've seen it before after the Reichstag fire in Germany. The Nazi leaders used that to then go after all their political enemies. They blamed everything on communists. They were able to then lock up 200,000 people and essentially completely dismantle their political opposition. But I also know, Jim, I think you have some understanding of how this type of narrative is seeded to take out political enemies going back to the Soviet times. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Soviets or the Russians are the experts in conspiracy theories, right? I mean, first of all, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which, was arguably, not arguably, was partially responsible for the Holocaust was Russian propaganda. It came out of the Russian intelligence services of imperialist Russia, and then it was remixed by the whites and then by the White Army and against the communists, and then remixed by Hitler. But the communists themselves also, it was all based on conspiracy theories as well. Stalin came up with all kinds of conspiracy theories around Lenin's death. But Stalin, when he was having having his own sort of stroke issues, which, by the way, Donald Trump is in Walter Reed today. Stalin came up with this conspiracy theory that all of the Jewish doctors were conspiring against him, and had the NKVD round up all the Jewish people, all the Jewish doctors, and start going after all the intellectuals, and almost exactly the way that Hitler started to do it before he, finally popped his final brain vessel and died. And Khrushchev was also had lots of conspiracies about the West, but it was all sort of based in reality. Stalin, by the end, much like Trump, was just like any kind of everything was a conspiracy against him. And in my view, what's happening with Donald Trump, and this is no sympathy for Donald Trump, but it's elder abuse. The guy doesn't know, the only reality he has, right, is it's extremely well orchestrated. So all he knows about this stuff is what somebody shows him, what somebody tells him, or what he sees on Truth Social, right? I think one of the most telling details of recent history is that Truth, where he listed out 2 of the 3 people who have already been indicted, was a DM on Truth Social.
Yeah.
To Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How many different ways is that broken democracy, that one thing? Go after my political enemies, right? Which is Watergate times a zillion. But I'm not only going to say that to you, I'm going to do it on DM. Yeah. On my own, like, QAnon website, right? Which is against all government rules and regulations, breaks every kind of security thing you could possibly imagine, right? Imagine if he was trying to keep that secret and the Russians found out. Right. Right? Like, anyway, it's entered really this late stage sort of odd, unparalleled in my reading, and I've done a lot, where we have this completely alternate reality being controlled by people like Stephen Miller and others who have very bad intentions.
I just, we fly by so much so fast, but it's like, how Orwellian is the name Truth Social? Again, we are for truth, and the name Truth Social embodies that war, because there is no truth happening there. That's weaponization, that's psyops. That's like what Jim was just saying about, again, when I don't know, I feel like we need better words, but it is so upside down to
it's projection. It is Darvo, it is projection, it is Goebbels. I mean, all of this, right, is the And Goebbels got a lot of his ideas from the Soviets, from Russian propaganda, from I mean, there was a lot of competition going on.
By the way, he knew the conspiracies weren't even true, but he found utility in it. He found that the objective in a conspiracy about anti-Semitism, he would then decide that the objective and the means was worth it. So even if he knew something was a lie, it didn't matter.
No. I mean, that was Goebbels told people what he was doing, right? He told people accuse others of what you are doing. This is his most famous. It's a paraphrase, but he said it out loud a lot. Like this is what you're supposed. This is what you do. Just tell the big lie. And what is it? What is the biggest lie for Americans? That being against fascism makes you a fascist. I can't tell you how many times on like Twitter and stuff, in some cases from what seem like real people who say, because I have anti-fascist on there, oh, that makes you a fascist. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is literally flipping the script, right? And that's why because I've been going to war on this Antifa thing, because if we allow it, right, if we allow it to sink in without any pushback, without making and I'm very upset with with Democrats because they're not going after this stuff at all. I get the healthcare thing, great, we should do that, but in the meantime, these guys are setting up the Democratic Party through this to be wiped out. So they're still in this world playing politics when the entire point of politics, when the entire rationale for politics is getting wiped off the earth.
I absolutely.
And we're going to need to have, to your point, Heidi, and I'll shut up, different language for these things, and we need Democrats to stop playing politics and start to recognize the reality that's on the ground, which is that politics themselves are the thing that's at risk.
Oh yeah, Hi-Fi, I've got something I want to say, but you gotta co-host.
Somebody in chat. Well, it meshes with what we're talking about. Somebody in chat mentioned the indictment of Letitia James, right?
Yeah.
And this is so. Here's what this is. This is creating a spectacle for the members of the cult to give them hope in the false reality that the leaders of the cult are projecting. And Jim, you understand this concept. You're creating an event in an altered reality to draw the audience in, right?
Yes. I think there's something more, though, here that's dark, which is Trump's malignant narcissism and the black hole that his psychology really represents. And again, that you look at that DM, like how stupid, how fucking out in the universe do you have to be to make a mistake? Like, oops, Watergate. How fucking nuts and out there do you have to be? And I think we're not recognizing that Trump's dementia, because he's clearly got early onset. Alzheimer's not even that early anymore. And he's clearly sick, and it's interacting with this terror of Epstein. I mean, and I don't want to get down the Epstein road too much because it's just gross and tired. But think about how much it's affecting everything, right? Yeah. Like it's almost certainly true that Trump was happy about this shutdown in part because there's no, the Epstein thing was going to be easy to escape. And then Mike Johnson, who's out here calling Antifa the terrorists, is keeping, not only keeping Congress closed, but won't swear in somebody for 2 weeks that now who is a legal member of Congress.
Not
because
normal.
they're only scheduling. It's absolutely insane. Just think about how bad it has to be and how much this is weighing on this fucking guy in order for him to go to these lengths, right? So what I'm saying is that spiral that I've been talking about for months now, and that I've been warning for months, that this guy is rupturing and has absolutely no limits left, right? I've been saying this for several months, that this is what we are watching right now. And so we can't just put all of this, as much as it feels like he's playing puppet master to all of this, and he is. A lot of it is just his internal, literal, raw desire to need retribution and revenge. It's not so much even about managing his cult anymore, because he doesn't think he needs their votes. He doesn't even think he needs their love, because he thinks he has all the power. But there's this one thing, and that tension between the fact that he thinks he's omnipotent, but he knows he's completely vulnerable, that is the valley of death that we are currently, in, that I think we underestimate.
That's brilliantly stated. I do think that there will be what I have come to understand as the Soviet show trial element to this when they actually go through it, is to and tarnish the public servants, so nobody is able to trust the people doing that good work. But there's something else I want to ask both of you about. So what we have seen with the clip that you opened with, and thank you for that, Hi-Fi. We always, Hi-Fi just does this thing at the beginning. We always watch with all our viewers, for the first time too. So I just want to applaud you for choosing Schiff documenting what Bondi refused to answer. But what I want to say is that, to me, it's one thing to describe Trump in the way that you did, but then he has these people around him, and they seem to be acting as if they don't need Congress anymore. There isn't anymore, and they they may be right. I don't know, because they've certainly set it up to, and again, to Roman history, this is nothing new under the sun. You have different types of Caesars that will come in and then render the Senate absolutely powerless. And so I am wondering what you guys think when you see that they act like it doesn't matter. It used to be that you got in front of Congress or the FBI interviewed you, and even if you were a liar, getting furthering your goals and your power objectives through your lies, once you got into a court of law or in front of Congress, you stopped the bullshit and you actually played it straight because you were on the record and you could get held accountable and or go to prison. What was going on there?
I think you said it. Is that usually and historically, when you get up in front of the Senate or something, you're worried about being held accountable, whether it's then or at some future regime. If you see Kash Patel, you see Pam Bondi, you see RFK Jr., there's no concern about that. There's no concern that there's going to be some retribution or accountability against them, because the entire cult, the entire idea of this movement is to achieve permanent power. And Trump has selling on multiple websites, Trump 2028 shit everywhere, all over the place. When Jeffries and Schumer, feckless asshats, I'm sorry, went into the Oval Office for 5 minutes to have Trump tell them no. Trump had somebody come in with the Trump 2028 hat, put it on the fucking Resolute desk, and snap a candid picture so he could troll them with it on fucking Truth. Right? So just the whole notion that these people think that there's accountability, that any of this matters at all, I think is belied by every single action that they take. All of it, every single thing that they're doing is unconstitutional and illegal and against the oath that they all took. And ultimately, that is the goal, because at a certain point, when it's just a giant criminal activity and every single person is by definition breaking their oath, well, then you have a real issue. And we're basically there.
We're so there.
Can I just,
yes, high five.
Can I just point out that there are moves being played in this game that are perverting the entire system top to bottom. And this one really troubles me probably a lot. But
yeah.
I mean, look, there's no fucking telling it, like.
I would just, when we look at Putin, right? When we look at Putin keeps getting voted into office with what, 98% of the vote?
Right? No, it's not like that, as quite as bad as that. But yeah, they have people, they have like GRU standing there watching you vote.
Well, also, if you guys read Gabrielis Landsbergis' latest post, where the real president of Belarus has been living in Lithuania. She won the 2020 election, Svetlana. And of course, Lukashenko is just like, no, you didn't, and she's been living with her kids in Lithuania. And because of some populist, extremist, right-wing TikTok party, which managed to get enough percentage of the vote to actually start to have some kind of impact. Apparently, somehow, she ended up losing her security detail, and now Gabrielis, who used to be the foreign minister there, foreign affairs minister there, is incredibly worried, to the point where he actually wrote about it. It's like Lithuania was like a safe place and a beacon still of, democratic values, and that is being eroded. So I'm very, I bring this up because we continually monitor these patterns, but it's like, in the countries like you talked about, it's like there's a number of countries where, the Putin governors would not be in power if they actually had fair voting systems. So,
well, I mean, I think the entire Russia is a successful version of what Trump is trying to do here. Like, let's be clear, they have state television that all has to, go by the rules. They have a 300,000 person ICE-like paramilitary that wanders around, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but that wanders around and will beat and terrorize and abduct people for protesting, for example, or anything that the dictator wants. And yeah, there were theoretically and there were democratic elections, and it is probably true that Putin was, quote, democratically elected, but that was after years of psychological warfare from former KGB officers who had started to infiltrate, as Putin did, back into the government. And unfortunately, it's just the same thing here. We did not hold anybody to account for any of the previous infiltrations and, not to mention the fucking insurrection. But 2016 was a shit show in terms of the election. All of that, and none of it has been accounted for, and that's why we're here. It accumulates. And, unfortunately, there's a certain point where it accumulates so much that, you're going to have to do more or less start over. And when you're looking at like something like the FBI, which has had fucking Kash Patel in charge of it, just whipping out every single person who gives a shit about the Constitution anymore.
Right.
The organization is, there's still good people there, but the organization's done.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And back to the story that started this conversation. Yesterday, it was announced that a St. Louis-based company called Liberty Vote acquired Dominion, and that was founded by a former Republican elections director, Scott Leinendecker. Terms of the deal not disclosed, but I hear Liberty and I hear Republican and I hear Texas-based, and I hear the fucking bell tolling.
Sorry. Liberty voting, really? That's a little on the nose, bro. Like that, and again, it's part of this whole thing. Is like they don't hide this shit. They're like, yeah, fuck yeah, we're gonna have freedom voting. Right? Freedom voting is where you go in there and we make sure you have the freedom to vote for the right person.
So freaking, this whole thing is so un-American in the America that I grew up in. I was born in the middle 60s and I got to see, human rights blossom. I lived in San Francisco where it was so cool to be whatever you wanted to be. And this is heartbreaking. I don't even know what to tell my children anymore. Like, I don't know how we get out of this, but I did have a big idea. Do you guys want to hear it? I had a big idea the other day. What if the resistance actually comes from within the people who work in the tech businesses owned by these oligarchs? Because at one point they have to wonder who they're serving. And I say this because a lot of people probably don't want to look at it because they got to get their expensive mortgages paid, up in Silicon Valley. But at some point you look in the mirror and you're like, who am I serving? And if you're serving Elon Musk or you're serving Mark Zuckerberg or you're serving any of these other special boys that turn out to be Russia aligned and Saudi aligned and autocratic aligned criminals, and you are certainly participating in the end of democracy as we know it, imperfect as it is, but always able to improve. So what if the actual resistance and what if that comes from within? I know it's very, very wishful thinking, but I have friends who work in the business. I see the conflict in them. And I think, why don't you guys fucking get us out of this? You got us into it. Get us out of it. They know how to do it. Musk doesn't create. Zuckerberg, they create. They just walk around like the puppet heads. So anyway, that was my big idea.
Well,
hold on. Considering that Larry Ellison just bought CBS or whatever, and he's consolidating, TikTok, and Barry Weiss, who takes money from Joe Lonsdale, is now By the way, hold on. During the FBI hearing, this part tripped me out, right? Pam Bondi had the audacity to say, oh, well, you took money from Reid Hoffman, right? Okay, Reid Hoffman, while he may be on the left, is still a member of what organization? The PayPal Mafia.
Well, that's it's not an organization. Reid Hoffman is their scapegoat. So where I was going to go is, and the scapegoat comes from Peter Thiel. And
oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Well done.
Baby,
now, if these fucking idiots can't read the Washington Post, like it's not a secret anymore. Peter Thiel's doing a 4-part series promoting the Antichrist, which he projects onto climate change and liberals and shit like that, when he's doing exactly what they're doing with Antifa, right? They're demonizing Antifa because Antifa is against fascism, right? Well, he's like, see, the Antichrist is them, the Antichrist is them. Wow. Every single thing that Peter Thiel has done for the last 30 fucking years has been about engineering the apocalypse, with him playing the role of the Antichrist. I shit you not. Look at every single thing that he's done. Who is in charge of the CDC right now who says you should be able to sell your fucking organs? A Peter Thiel grown lab rat who literally has no thought in his head that wasn't put there by Peter fucking Thiel.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Thank you. If you can't figure out that the Antichrist is bad for humanity, then you don't deserve to be in the tech industry. You deserve to be playing with Tinker Toys. You're a fucking idiot.
I know. Like, what are you going to say when the Nuremberg trials come your way? I was just taking orders. Like, come on, guys. We need your help.
I know he was the Antichrist, but he told me to.
But I get like free juice bars at work. Like,
do we have clips?
Yeah. So this has been a very exciting and robust conversation. Thank you both so much. And I do think it's time, since we had an excellent summer vacation from the show, we missed opportunities to show some of the highlights of recent interviews. And I think Hi-Fi's pulled a few clips, and one of them should be from a Romanian-born poet. Do you have Andre's clip? He's amazing. He wrote a book on fascism, and that is the clip I'm looking for.
How to live under fascism. I wear the uniform of your occupation. I am the nurse who walks with great aplomb, with soft shoes, crisp white bonnet, and the bomb in my leather bag. I've come to see the colonel. He hurts from signing warrants, sitting on his ass. Black coats, let me get through these doors. I have a match and kerosene. I need to see the boss. I think of it every time I drag my chains to work.
That was appropriate, Andre Codrescu. That was appropriate. Every time I drag my chains to work. Yeah, think about it, tech employees. Like, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to like help stop this fascist overthrow? That'd be good.
I've seen this in operation in Silicon Valley. I was there in the early mid 90s when it was just getting started. And it was a blast. It was fun, lots of creativity. People were, doing all kinds of fun stuff. And, the big money started to hit, and, shit changed. And, it kind of recovered again, but these boys were there from the beginning, right? Peter Thiel was in Facebook from day one. And if you know anything about what this guy, why he did it to, and he's written about this, speaking of the Antichrist, to create a scapegoat, because he believes in this philosopher named Rene Girard, who thinks that violence is a needed purge of society in order for, a more peaceful, God-loving theocracy to come about. And that's why he bought Facebook, and that's why he's been groomed it from day one to create the conflict, to create the violence that, you know, we're seeing right now, and that, you know, so I don't know what it's going to take for you know, the sort of electorate at large to see what's going on here, but those people, Heidi, they fucking know. They know.
Yeah.
And there's no excuse. I got out of it because I saw these tech bros coming in. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore.
I honestly think, Jim, their mortgages and turning a blind eye, and I think that sucks. And, you know, the world that I grew up, it was different. Like you, Jeff, sell the product, believe in it anymore. I left. You know, you don't just stick around and pretend to communism, because you are high fidelity. What else you got for us?
America has chosen to have nonstop cognitive civil war, but that's a choice that America has made, and it makes it every day. And I'm afraid it's made by MSNBC and CNN as well. You know, they didn't bother doing something different. They just do a very bad version of a very unsuccessful version of what the right does. But that's a choice America has made. And one has to live with one's choices, I suppose. There's been many opportunities, and there will be many opportunities to do something else. So I really don't think this is about not knowing what to do. The solutions are all around us. They have been historically. But America's maybe this is because it's so successful, it can allow itself this. For maybe because it's such a successful country, it can experiment with this. As somebody from Eastern Europe, obviously I'm very worried, because this sort of playing about with constant dehumanizing of each other, this playing about with throwing facts out the window, this playing about with all these sort of authoritarian experiments haven't historically ended very well. So it is very, very worrying. But I don't know, I do a lot of polling in America, and everybody says about how they yearn for the return of truth, how they yearn for overcoming division, how they yearn for D-Day and the moon landing and building the Hoover Dam and all these great things that Americans did together. And that tells me that there is actually a demand in America for that. So if somebody were to say, look, I'm creating a social media company that is based on finding collaborative solutions. Yeah. You know, instead of riling hate against each other. Or I'm going to create a massive TV channel that's going to be all about not bringing two sides together. That's pathetic. That's nonsense, bringing sides together. It's not about that. It's about, like, how do we do something together? Yeah. So how do we actually get things done together? It's going to be all about that. Yeah. I'm going to develop, entertainment shows that cultivate how we get stuff done together. So if somebody were to do that, the polling suggests that actually there is a huge market for it. Yeah,
there is, but they're attacking all of that now, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
And they have been for a very long time. I mean, to the point where they, you know, they finally, after all these years, defunded NPR, which, thank goodness, still has enough funding to exist.
Yeah.
But, you know, our the war, I won't say the war against truth is this is a serious sort of effort to do a kind of year zero on the United States. And if anyone knows what year zero is, it was Pol Pot's eradication of 25% of Cambodia in an effort to start from, you know, sort of ground truth, right? And some kind of agrarian society where, you know, the traditional values would sort of bloom. And, if you listen to the eliminationist kind of rhetoric from these people, which matches I'm sorry, but the National Socialist rhetoric of the Nazis, that's where this goes. And he's exactly right. For me, and part of the reason why I've been, and should I say something brief? Let me just briefly sort of give people an update.
Yeah.
So for those of you who aren't aware yet, Mike Flynn sued me like 2.5 years ago. I was scheduled today, like right now, instead of being on this podcast, I would have been at the end of the day in Florida in jury selection, because this guy right here called Mike Flynn a Nazi and some other stuff. Most of it was thrown out, but the Nazi thing is still in there. And now I'm sitting here looking at the whole Republican Party literally just copying the whole playbook. Note by, and it's hard to, so anyway, FACO. I have a new term, FACO. Flynn always chickens out. And so right at the end, he was like, "Oh shit! I have a appearance in Florida, in Liberty University, the only university in the nation with 100% acceptance and like 20% like graduation rate in the entire country." Since he just, oh my goodness, my schedule doesn't allow it. The trial was continued until March. Now, I am here to tell you, I have no intention of letting this absolute joke continue until March. There are further developments that I will talk about at some point soon. In the meantime, it does cost money, and we moved everything to this website. And so if you feel like it, but most of the people who are watching us have already maxed out, and I love you and I appreciate it, and there's no guilt here at all.
Share with your friends.
But anyway, so that's where it is. Homie chickened out. And for me, like, the reason why I'm putting myself and a lot of other people through this fucking nightmare is because I think it's very important for all of us to even if it costs you something, even if it costs you some inconvenience or some hell in your life, like, stand up to these people. If you don't, who's going to? Who? It is really, that's where we are. And I've always tried to be the non-pressure guy. Like, I get where everybody is and you have to be where you are. We're not there anymore. That's not where we are anymore. Get off your fucking ass. And again, I'm not talking to the people who I know who are working their asses off. Right. But to the people who are still like, I'm afraid to speak out or say something or talk to people about this or whatever. We're past that now. The sleeping giant either fucking wakes up or dies. That's it. Those are the choices. So anyway, I know mine.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jim, and thank you for that fight. And yeah, if you can donate, please do. It is the website again, you guys?
DefendSpeechNow.org.
Okay. DefendSpeechNow.org. DefendSpeechNow.org. 501c4 nonprofit. If you have friends who help, it's not just going to be supporting Jim's fight. Prepared to take on, the battle for other reporters who are being targeted with lawfare. Do we want to end on Gareth Gore's clip? Do we have another one? And let's remind people, the gentleman you just saw a minute ago is Peter Pomerantsev, the author of Nothing is True and Everything is Possible. And This Is Not Propaganda, as well as other books that really explain the origins of modern propaganda and these great propagandas that we find ourselves living in. Did you want to show Gareth? Because we should introduce who he is too. Author of Opus, Financial Times reporter, who stumbled upon the biggest story, and it affects us deeply every day because religion is used to mask what is essentially power grabs throughout the country. And also, Opus is being prosecuted, this sect within the Catholic Church, for human trafficking in Argentina. And that is a model that's been replicated by this sect all over the country, all over the world.
We know from our friend Tom Carter the outsized influence that Leonard Leo has had. He's sort of known as the SCOTUS whisperer, but clearly his tentacles reach out to Opus Dei in every direction. And maybe this is a good time to remind people of how many people around Trump who actually worked in his administration were either openly members of Opus Dei or certainly affiliated. Because again, it's when we talk about them using spirituality for power, we're talking about power at the highest levels.
Yeah, the influence that Opus Dei has in a town like Washington, D.C. is absolutely staggering. I mean, the center of Opus Dei's operations in Washington, D.C. is this place called the Catholic Information Center. And just on the board of that one little kind of center in central DC, you have Leonard Leo, who, as you were just saying, is basically the architect of this conservative takeover of the US Supreme Court and all the consequences that come from that. Obviously Roe v. Wade, but there've been so many rulings since then that are really shifting really kind of reshaping American society. You've got people like Bill Barr, who was Attorney General under, during the first Trump administration. You've got people like Mick Mulvaney, who was the kind of the budget chief in the first Trump administration. People like Pat Cipollone, who was the White House chief counsel. And just coming back to Leonard Leo, I mean, he's very supportive of Opus Dei's I guess the Opus Dei network in the States, and he's been giving money to various Opus Dei initiatives. He's also behind this initiative to really expand the Opus Dei school network right across the US. The Opus Dei school network is a primary place where it recruits not just kids, but also the parents. It attracts all of these these elite families, especially in DC. It operates 2 schools. It's got about, I think it's 6 or 7 schools across the US, but they want to expand that to around 40. And, it's part of what Leonard Leo talks about, this reshaping of the culture of society. And they want to do that. They've already had great success in the courts and in politics, and they're now turning to the worlds of entertainment, education, the media. They really envisage like a complete takeover of American society and culture.
And
Shutting down dominionism is a hell of a drug.
And they achieved it with the judicial coup by putting all the extremists now participating in the criminal overthrow of democracy on the Supreme Court. So this is a multi-front war, as you guys can see, and we just tried to bring you the information so you can help us battle back and give your networks this information as well. Any final thoughts, words, gentlemen? Anything I didn't ask?
I don't think so. The only thing we didn't cover that I just wanted to briefly touch on is that Pete Hegseth announced that in the United States of America, the Qatari government will have an Air Force base. I didn't say any of those words wrong, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Trump gets a plane and a $5.5 billion resort deal in Qatar, and then allows them to put a fucking Air Force Base in Idaho at the same time as people like Mike Johnson are saying that all the No Kings protesters are pro-Hamas. You're so pro-Hamas. Well, I don't know if Mike Johnson is aware, but the Qataris have paid Hamas $2 billion minimum over the last 5 years. The leadership lived in Qatar the whole time that they did 10-7 and the rest of it. So the hypocrisy, the ignorance, and the projection really has reached a level that I don't know historically that we've seen since somebody like Stalin. Really.
Yeah. And I also just keep thinking, glug, 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 big oil, big oil, big oil. Like when I see some
That's
GOP.
that's where the money comes from.
In
Gotta get the dinosaurs out.
Russia, like it's like who wrote it? Did the Russians write it or did ExxonMobil write it? Yeah, so that's some weird shit. In the words of George W. Bush, that's some weird shit, Jim. High five.
Qataris in Idaho, like what?
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
And let me tell you one thing though. Even MAGA's like, huh? Like I've already had a number of people who troll me like every day go like, bro, this is the one thing, man, like we can agree on this shit. What the fuck?
You never know what's gonna turn them. You never know.
So we've done a lot of dooming and glooming. Let me end on a positive note, please.
Good.
I don't believe, and maybe it's almost a blue non-religious hopium thing. I don't believe that there are 330 million people in the United States of America that are going to fall for this shit ultimately. I think these Nazis that are running around in ICE uniforms and all of this stuff, like they're overplaying their hand across the board. And I don't know how this fever is going to break, but at some point it will. And just in the meantime, prepare people, make sure you're aware of what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And, don't be silent.
Nancy McLean agrees with you. Democracy in Chains author. High five. Final word, final clip.
Final word is, Donald Trump rose to power on the backs of cults. And the way to defeat cults is to form kind of an anti-cult, a bigger movement against the cult, not just vocal, but a group that takes action. And I think it's good that we're seeing all these things. I think the biggest division should be the Epstein files, right? But also things like Social Security, threatening to not pay our military for the shutdown, over the shutdown. When government services are a lot harder to get when people's Social Security checks stop showing up because Russ Voigt fired some administrator in who knows where. Now is the time, if you've lost people over politics, to maybe reach out to those people and just feel them out, see how they're feeling about things. The fact that we've had negative job growth, just see how things are going with them. And so when I was thinking about,
can I give one little build on that? Rather than go right at them on, how's this working out for you? Did you vote for this? Like that puts them on defensive. The best thing to do if you want to reach out to somebody is say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How's it going? As a human being to another human being, I'm checking in on you. That is the most important thing. And so I know that tendency is there, but that's not the way to start the conversation.
Make empathy great again. Make empathy the word of the day. I love that. Yeah,
And
check it out.
It's
since we're
strategy. It's
talking,
not even empathy. It's just strategy. It doesn't work. Is the thing.
well, the fact that we can even communicate put me in mind of Lavi Sifri and telephone. So that's what we're going out with.
It's nice to hear your voice again. I've waited all day long, even wrote a song for you. It's strange the way you make me feel. With just a word or two, I'd like to do the same for you. It's nice to hear you say hello. And how are things with you? I love you. But very soon it's time to go. An office job to do while I'm here writing songs for you. Strange how a phone call can change your day, take you away, away from the feeling of being alone. Bless the telephone. It's nice the way you say my name. Not very fast or slow, just soft and low. The same as when you tell me how you feel. I feel the same way too. I'm very much in love with you. I'm very much in love with you.